Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today on the podcast we have Hannah Balliet from Ugly Mug Marketing. Hannah, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well, and I'm excited about this one because I've digested some of your content leading up to, and I just know this is going to be a good conversation because I see with Ugly Mug Marketing you've had a couple different roles and you've been evolving, so to speak, over the last couple of years. Can you tell me a little bit about that and overall just Ugly Mug Marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came to Ugly Mug Marketing, I believe it was 2018, if I'm doing the math right in my head. I've been there now for 6 years. And when I joined the team, we were a small but mighty team. And for anyone who is familiar with our office, we now own this entire portion of our building. But before we were just in this one section of our office. And again, small but mighty team, I was hired on to be the social media manager. And so it was intimidating because everyone who was working with us as a social media client was actually working with our owner and founder, Wayne Mullins. And so here I was, moving from Michigan to Louisiana, stepping into this new role in a town where it seemed really important to know everyone and have these personal connections. And I felt like such an outsider. I was like, these people are never going to believe that I know what I'm doing or that I understand their market. How am I going to develop these relationships and trust? And what was really important was Wayne believing and trusting me and gently, slowly giving me more and more responsibility with each of these accounts so that I could eventually fully own them on my own. But then he also gave me the freedom to grow the department as I saw fit. And that was a really fun season. So over the course of the last, I would say 5 years or so, the department has grown over 340%. And that's been wild, wild, massive growth. That's about, anywhere from 25 to 35% growth year over year. And during that time, I learned a lot about working with different types of clients, working with true entrepreneurs and people who are just getting their ideas started in their garage, I like to say, all the way to multi-million-dollar companies that have very well-established brands and have very specific KPIs and goals and metrics that they're after. And so it's been fun working with a variety of different types of clients over the years and also growing and scaling a team and navigating all of the challenges, the highs and lows that come with that, right? And figuring out what exactly it is that sets us apart and helps us retain our clients too. That's been really key with that growth. It hasn't been a lot of churn and new clients over time. It's been really building lasting relationships and trying to add more value to those clients and for those clients over time. And now I've stepped into a role of director of communications and teaching and the marketing stuff too. And that's been fun because we've never had this role. And so I get to, in some ways, make things up as I'm going along. But what I've really been focusing on lately is developing the systems and processes and figuring out what our overarching strategy is going to be for Ugly Mug. Because as great as we've been at creating strategy for our clients, sometimes you forget about yourself as an agency. You're like, oh, wait, maybe we should be doing some of this for ourselves. Maybe we need to have a prettier grid on Instagram. Maybe we need to be sending out more intentional emails. Maybe we need to be sharing what we've been learning behind the scenes because other people could really benefit from this too. And so it's been really fun trying to pull all of those different things that we've been doing here and there and make it more of a cohesive strategy. And so that's more of my role now. I do still have a handful of clients that I get to work with because I like to stay sharp on my skills and all the updates that are coming to Meta and, all of the craziness there. And I really have enjoyed this stepping into this new role. A little scary at times because, again, there's been no framework. Yeah. I've just been kind of like, what are our needs? All right, cool. Get that in order. Move on to the next thing. But it's been really fun.
So you said a couple things in there I want to touch on and kind of extract. One is that, first of all, I can completely relate to the idea that as a marketing company, we do more for our clients than we do ourselves. We like to say it, at CyberDogs, like we're the last dog at the bowl usually. And
Yep.
sometimes we don't even get to eat because we're so busy, we're so busy doing everybody else's stuff. So it's really good to stop, reflect, and kind of analyze what, kind of the opportunities you're missing out on as an agency, because you're so busy working on everybody else's stuff except your own. And
Yes.
personally, I think your agency should be the shining star. You should be leading the charge, but that's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're servicing clients and making sure that the client comes first.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because you're sitting there thinking too, we have all these experts on our team who know so much about marketing and so much about web and so much. We're not even tapping into that for ourselves because we are so busy for our clients. And so this role has really allowed us to have one person, me, who can at least lead the charge and like tap on those experts that are on our team and really, really bring everything together. So,
yeah. So take me back to kind of when you started the social media role, because what I think is fascinating about that, and hopefully you'll agree with this, but what's tough about social media is everybody's on it. Everybody can interact with it. Everybody somewhat feels like, yeah, I can do this. So in the sea of social media experts, in the sea of trying to recruit somebody in that position, it is really hard to find somebody who truly understands the nuances and the intricacies from platform to platform, and how they can apply that to business and not just their personal, because they're vastly different. Throwing something up on your personal versus trying to get results for a business is apples and bowling balls. It's not the same.
Totally.
It's hard. So coming into that and kind of knowing that, man, I got to cultivate a new path here, and I have to kind of assert some wisdom and expertise. I don't know how to do this. Kind of tell me what that was like, because I think as an agency owner, like if you're a gem, like if you can find people like that can really kind of own that and take it to to the places you have, that's phenomenal, because a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah. So when I stepped into the role at Ugly Mug, I feel like Wayne did such a great job of mentoring me through the back end of Facebook and that component of things, because you can teach anybody how to do that, right? Like I can teach someone how to set up a campaign in Facebook Ads Manager. I can teach someone, but what is difficult is the problem solving, the creativity. It's really hard to teach somebody that. And so I believe that when I was hired at Ugly Mug, Wayne saw that I had a drive and a passion for marketing. He saw that I was creative. He saw that I could be analytical, but I didn't necessarily have the technical behind the scenes skills. But he saw that and he was like, I can teach her how to do that. You can't always teach someone how to have the work ethic or how to have that creativity or that good eye for design. Those are things that people sometimes they just have or they don't have. And so stepping into the role, it was very easy for me to look at a client and say, oh my gosh, I have all of these amazing ideas, but figuring out the best way to implement those took a little bit of a learning curve, because sometimes what happens in social media, and oftentimes when we're having maybe initial calls with prospective clients, it's a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? They're like, oh, we'll post this on this day. And oh my gosh, we saw another company do this. And so now we're going to make this real, or we're going to jump on this trend, or they're not thinking about it strategically, right? And I think that's been really crucial for us and growth is we've brought these clients on, and they understand that when they sign with us, that we're developing a strategy. We're not just posting random posts on social media, or we're not just saying, hey, we're going to post 5 times a day organically. No, we are running specific targeted campaigns that are aimed at getting you X goal. And if you don't have a goal when you sign with us, we're going to establish a goal in that initial kickoff meeting, right? We're going to say, hey, what is it that you're after? Oh, well, I want to have brand awareness. Okay, that's a component of all of this. But at the end of the day, the majority of our clients are after more clients or customers of their own. They're after a specific revenue goal, and everything that you are doing marketing wise for that client needs to be intentionally created and put together in such a way that helps them reach that goal. Otherwise, what are we doing? And I think that problem solving, that strategy side of things is so crucial. And it's been really important for me stepping into the role because, for example, one of the first clients I started working with was a coffee and cupcake shop that's in Alexandria, Louisiana. And they were intimidating for a variety of reasons because A, they were working with Wayne, but B, it was this powerhouse, women-owned entrepreneurs, and they had their eye on the prize. They knew what revenue they were after. They knew what their biggest seasons were. Valentine's Day, you wouldn't believe how much money this coffee shop and bakery brings in on Valentine's Day because of the amazing lineup of items that they have on their menu and pre-sales. And so we had to be really intentional during Valentine's Day of crafting a strategy that was going to drive pre-sales and beat last year's number while also driving traffic into the store for last minute folks. What can we add on? How can we roll this out in such a way that creates that sense of urgency for people to want to come and do a pre-order rather than waiting till the last minute and trying to come in and get chocolate covered strawberries or a last minute custom cookie cake, right? And that's all of the strategy building is key. And sometimes I think there's this perception with clients, with anyone who is a business owner of, hey, I need someone to just make some posts. Oh, that sounds really expensive. And so I have a cousin or I have a niece or so-and-so, my daughter, actually, she can do that for us. And that's great. Your daughter probably can create some wonderful graphics in Canva and probably can post, but does your daughter have the marketing strategy? Does she understand what your goals are? Is she going to be able to piece together all of these different components of your social media, but also your direct mail or also your radio ad that's going? Is it all going to be cohesive and actively helping you reach that goal? That's such a misconception. I know you didn't necessarily ask that, but I think it's really important when we're thinking about social media. And, you know, it's certainly been a huge component of my journey with all of our clients.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head and agree. Like I've ran into it several times where my cousin's neighbor lady at the lake, she does social media and like all the time. And I'm with you. It's like, you know, do you, man, if that's what you want to do and you want to spend $50 a month to do it or have somebody do it for a case of beer or whatever it is, go nuts.
Yep.
But it's not what we do. And it's not the service level we provide on any service, but especially social media, because I'm with you and you hit on the words that we typically use. The strategy is important. I mean, it is. Intention is, like, in my opinion, it's right there, or maybe it's even slightly more important, because if you don't go into it with kind of why you're doing it and the reason or the intention behind it, it's really hard to evaluate if it worked or it didn't. Totally. If you're just going into it willy-nilly and you're just like, hey, my goal is to just, like you said, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's hard to defend it later when somebody says, hey, is what you're doing helping? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're going through the motions and you're paying us, so that's pretty good. Like that's as much as you've got to work with. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think intention and strategy, and the beauty, you know, and people need to realize this too, is that intention and strategy, you calibrate that as needed. You might get 3 days into it and you tweak, and you might get a month into it and you tweak. You might get 90 days into it and you tweak. But it's kind of this understanding that, like, because we're intentional and because we have a strategy, I mean, we're like a NASCAR pit crew. We are making adjustments before every lap because we're trying to make something happen. And that's the part the neighbor lady's kid at the lake is not doing. Like, Exactly.
So. And I think I love that analogy of like the NASCAR pit crew, because we always say, y'all, we're not setting it and forgetting it. Okay. We are monitoring, we are checking on it, we are making adjustments as needed. I am doing testing of headlines, and then whichever headline wins, okay, we're taking and running with the winning headline, and then we're going to maybe split test a couple of different graphics. Okay, this headline with this particular graphic winning. Okay, on to the next thing. We're trying to optimize. We're trying to get better. We want to get a better cost per lead. We want to get a better cost per click or cost per call. Whatever the metric is that we're after, I want to beat that from the previous month, right? And gosh, yeah, that's all just so important. And sometimes too, we get lost in the strategy. So we have this saying too that tactics without strategy, oh my gosh, now I'm going to absolutely butcher it. But basically along the lines of like, you can't just have a bunch of different tactics that you're doing. You also need to have a strategy, but you can't just have a strategy and get into like analysis by paralysis, right? Because sometimes people are like, we have this lovely plan, we have this calendar, we have this flow chart, but nothing ever actually happens. Then you have on the other extreme, okay, we're going to be on TikTok, we're going to be on YouTube, and then we're going to get on Facebook. And it's like, okay, but like, are those the actual right tactics that you need to have in your toolkit, right? Like, are those the places that your people are actually hanging out? That's like one of the first things we dive into is like when we're starting with a new client, I'm like, what is your goal? What's your goal this quarter? What's your goal this year? Revenue, clients, what have you been done? What revenue can you attribute to social media previous year before working with us? So we have something to compare to after this first month or this quarter, whatever it may be. But then I'm also diving into, all right, we have this established goal. Who are we after? Like who are the people? Like, and sometimes they're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, you're sitting on a mountain of data, probably previous customer information, people who like your page. Let's dive into that. Let's study that a little bit. Is there one of my clients, I love them to pieces. They are a riot. We've been working with them. They are a car window tint and come get your truck lifted kind of place. Okay.
Yep.
And they have been in business for, I don't know, 30 some years. And I'll never forget the first time I sat down with Robert. I was like, all right, and target customer. And Robert's like, we got people in here who are 15 years old. They're dreaming up what their car's going to look like when they turn 16. And then we got people in here who are 80 years old. And I'm like, Robert, but who is actually picking up the phone? Who is paying the invoice at the end of it? Like, let's pay attention to a little bit more of that so we can hone in. And I will say their audience is still relatively broad, but we narrowed it down from 15 to 80 years old. Now we're down to, okay, it's typically someone who is like 35 to like, we're not really seeing any people really over 55 who are lifting their truck or, adding, there's just so many different things that they can do, right? Like getting new wheels and tires and all kinds of like custom things that you can do to your vehicle. But I'm like, all right, so we've kind of narrowed it down a little bit more. But then within that, we have some different segments. And I think sometimes when we talk about customer avatar or ideal customer too, people think there's just one. And I'm like, you might have multiple avatars. Like certainly for an agency, you probably have different avatars or types of people that you're after depending on particular services. And that might even be in relation to price point. Like for us, if we have a course or an event that we're doing, that could be a good fit for someone who's at a little bit lower of a price point and not quite ready to hire an agency out for their social media. So they're just looking to learn as much as possible so that they can do it in-house until they get to a point where they can hire a team to do it for them, right? But then we have this other price point of options where, hey, this is for a home services company that has the margins and the flexibility in their budget to be able to sub out for lead generation. Okay, great. This is for them. We have an avatar for that person. And then that helps us too, and that helps our clients identify what platforms they need to be hanging out on, because you don't need to be on every single platform.
Well, exactly. And couple things. One, you don't need to be on every single platform, and you need to be on the ones that you can realistically support.
Yes.
And also, every platform has a different expectation. So like what we run into a lot is two things. People run into the broad expectation of putting social media in one bucket, even though they're
Mm,
different platforms with different strategies and different triggers. And
yeah.
then the other thing is that people want absolutes. They want, you had talked
Mm,
about, like, let's talk about your ideal customer. Let's break down the data so that we can even craft a direction. And
yes.
unfortunately, sometimes clients think, well, if you can't just give me the answer as to what the ROI is, then you must not know what you're doing. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, the expertise is me analyzing this down to the point where you even have a chance of ROI. The expertise is not me being a fortune teller or me looking into the future.
Totally.
And it's hard for people to understand that. But as you kind of described it, that journey, that kind of that cultivating of understanding, that's gold. Like, and for those clients who are willing to adopt that and kind of live through that, they will come out of the other side of that with a better understanding as to what social media really is.
Yeah. I think that is crucial to the growth that we've had at Ugly Mug too. The people who have adopted that mentality, who have really bought in at that initial kickoff meeting, are the people who have stayed with us for these 6 years.
Yep.
Like Robert. Robert was one of my very first clients that I signed at Ugly Mug, and he's still here today. And he bought into that. He was like, this is not going to be an overnight, we're going to go viral kind of situation. This isn't going to be, we're going to start showing up on all these different platforms. This is, no, our audience is primarily on Facebook or they're primarily on Instagram. And so that's where we're going to invest our resources. He also still invests in traditional marketing because the market that he's in for that older demographic, those people are still listening to the radio, seeing the billboards, doing the things, right? And so he knows that that's still important. But as far as social media goes, we're really honing in on Facebook and running those lead generation campaigns and being intentional about the seasons that we see. We look at their sales. We sit down in our meeting and we say, what are sales looking like this quarter? Let's look at Q2 already right now. Let's look at Q2 of last year.
Yep.
What were the big ticket items? We always know tint. It starts to get hot. He's in Louisiana, y'all. It's hot. It's sticky.
Yep.
Okay. People get their new car. They need to get their windows tinted. Okay. And so that's always the big season for that. But are there some other products that maybe kind of popped off last year or even 2 years ago that we can be really intentional about promoting during this time and making sure that we're rolling those out early enough and getting that in the back of people's head, and that's what the kid at the lake, the ladies, the neighbor kid at the lake, they're not thinking about that. I feel like we're really picking on the kid at the lake.
But it's funny because it honestly comes up all the time. Like, it sounds
Yes.
ridiculous and it sounds like, come on, Mike, really? And it's like, no, it happens all the time. And
Yes.
again, I have no problem if that's the route people want to go, but to do the right thing for your business, to do the right thing for kind of your company, you need more than that, whether you realize it or not. And I think somebody like you, somebody like Ugly Mug, that's willing to walk them through the process and help them understand, like, it's huge. And they need to, whatever decision they decide to go with, they at least need to give themselves a chance to see the difference and not really look at it as though, oh, this solution's this much and this one's, like I said, $50, so I'm going to do that one instead. Like, understand what you're doing, because there's a reason why it's different.
Totally. And there's going to be different payoff long term, right? Like, okay, I spend $50 a month for a year. What kind of return am I going to get on that? Versus if I invest, I don't know, $1,500 a month for 6 months, the return could be, or it just is going to be vastly different.
I get concerned, and I tell clients this as well, is like, what's the cost of not starting today? Because your expectation of what you think you want isn't going to change. It's only going to grow. So a year from now, when you go, man, I still don't have 10,000 followers, or I'm still not viral, or I'm still not, like, for whatever criticisms you have of your current situation, being cheap or not investing or just ignoring the problem, a year from now is only going to get, that hole just got deeper, and it's harder and harder to dig out of it, because the days of quick interaction and quick growth, they're over. They've been over for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it, like you said, it's strategy, it's intention, it's combination of other mediums, it's paid ads, it's like they're all ingredients in one big pot of soup. And if you're not doing that or multiple, you're not really giving yourself a chance. And I think teaching people that is important.
Yeah. I think there is such an expectation of I need to go viral. Maybe not an expectation. Maybe expectation is not the right word, but this idea of wanting to go viral or needing to go viral in order for your business to go to the next level. And I think it's really interesting because I even get things on my feed, probably because I'm a marketer and Instagram knows they're always watching, but of videos of people who their business did go viral last year and their sales skyrocketed. And then now they're not in that.
Yep.
They didn't know how to keep up with that, right? They just had this one reel or this one opportunity where an influencer shared their product one time and it went crazy. And they had this insane amount of growth in 2023, but now heading into 2024, sales are down. They didn't have a strategy. They don't know how to keep up. They don't have a plan in place for continuing on with that momentum. Or they have this, maybe they had an expectation that the sales were going to keep going in that direction with little to no work. And that is just not the case. It could not be further from the truth. Very few people really in the grand scheme of things go viral and then have some crazy longevity of success in their business, right? Like unless they're putting the work in on the back end, it's probably not going to continue. You are going to see that dip after.
Yeah, we talk about it with clients all the time that, unless your last name's Kardashian or you've got Kanye West kind of money to throw at things, you cannot will it into existence. It starts with the strategy, the plan, the intention. And then if you can create success, then it's a challenge of replicating it. And that doesn't mean it's easy, because what happens today is not necessarily true tomorrow, depending on when these platforms evolve, change, the audience, the seasonality, whatever. So the challenge of a marketer or a social media person is that, we need to get it to that point where we feel like, hey, it's working, like the engine's running good, we're winning more than we're losing. Now, how do we do more of that? How do we replicate that? How do we, that is the job. That's the challenge. And for people to understand that, it's huge, because it calibrates their expectation and helps them see what's really there. And sometimes you're doing a lot better than you think. Just because you didn't go viral or you just didn't, how come I can't draw a direct line from this to sales? There's probably 50 reasons why, but it doesn't mean it's not working. It doesn't mean it's not driving conversation or brand awareness or whatever. And point is, for those people who understand that, they can actually feel the success. And for those who are really stuck on, I need to go viral, it's like, well, you're never even going to allow yourself to win, because your benchmark is way too high. It's unrealistic. And sometimes it just depends on your industry. Like if you're a dentist, you're probably not going viral. Sorry. That's just it's just not really the industry for going viral, but it's interesting, because I think being voyeurs and watching other people do it, it looks easy, or we see a story on 60 Minutes where somebody fired up a business and they were a millionaire by Tuesday. It's like, well, that didn't look that hard. Well, yeah.
Why can't I do that?
Yeah. What's the problem? I thought you knew marketing. Well, yeah, it's a little harder than that.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard too, because we live in a world where, they are seeing the 60-minute episodes and they are seeing the Shark Tank people and they are seeing, and it's really hard to not want to have that or think, well, what's wrong with my product or what's wrong with my business? I'm in the same industry. Or they get really hyper-focused on the vanity metrics, not the metrics that actually matter. And when I say vanity metrics, I mean total likes on your page or total followers. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily matter. And I will give you a great example of it. We have a client who is a heating and cooling company in Columbus, Ohio. This page, I think when we started working with them, they had 124 likes on their Facebook page, but they had a really good and strong brand and presence in Columbus. And our whole goal with them is generating new HVAC customers. They offer pretty much all the trades as far as HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And so our goal was to help them find new customers, roll out different offers. And with 124 likes, out of all of the other other locations within their region and other brands, they were the top performer of generated leads per month and booked jobs. And so it doesn't matter how many page likes they had. It didn't matter that they had only 124 page likes. People were seeing that offer. The messaging was crafted. The graphic was crafted in such a way that was appealing to people in that market. People were taking action. The customer service rep was getting them on the phone, and the jobs were getting booked.
Yep.
That's what matters at the end of the day for them. And we don't need to be worried about page likes. Y'all, I bet if you go and look at that page, it probably still only has probably 250 because that's not what we're focusing on. That's not what's the most important thing for us. The most important thing is generating new leads for them and getting jobs booked and generating more revenue.
And I completely understand the vanity metrics and why you feel good about it.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember like your audience and kind of what their propensity is to engage. Like, I don't know if the HVAC crowd is the one who's going to hop on and comment. And I don't know if they're the ones who are going to, you got to think about that too. So like the lack of data there or the lack of ability to interact doesn't make it wrong. It's just looking at your audience. Are they really the type that are going to care enough to, like, I saw the offer and that's great, but liking the post, sharing the post, commenting on the post, making a reel out of it, I don't know if that's what you can expect out of this person. And no. I don't think holding them to that or calling it a failure because they don't do it is fair either, because that's not how it works anymore. And keep in mind, these platforms evolve to a degree too. Like, Facebook is a voyeur type platform for many people. They're just on there to snoop on their neighbors and maybe see pictures of the grandkids. They're not on there to do business hardcore. However, they will see things. They will, it's a good way to reach people. I'm not saying that, but they're not necessarily on there to, like, I need to like 10 posts today.
Yeah.
They're not on there in that way.
And they're not necessarily on there to say, oh, I need a plumber to come and unclog a drain in my bathtub. Let me go to Facebook to find that. No, not necessarily either. But we know that those homeowners and that those people, that they're hanging out there. And so we also want to be hanging out there, right? And we want to show up in the midst of the grandchildren pictures and the snooping on the neighbor and whatever else they might be doing on Facebook. I go on Facebook and I'm like, what's on Facebook Marketplace that I can get a deal on? Or what can I sell in my house and make my husband have to interact with the person who's going to come and pick it up? That's what I'm doing on Facebook. And so if I'm the target audience, having that mentality, and that's why I think knowing the target audience is so crucial, because it's like, what are they in the midst of doing when they're hanging out on the platform? And what do they care about? And what are their challenges and what are their pain points? These are all things that are, in our exercise, in our customer avatar exercise, because you really have to get like your mind. And so often I think people are like, our product is the best or our service is the best. And it's so great because X, Y, and Z, they talk about why they think it's great. Right. But I am more concerned with why do your current customers think it's great? Let's go look at your reviews. Maybe there are things that you haven't even said about why your company or your product is so great, but it's actually the thing that's most important to your customers. It's not even, it's not even on your radar. Like, let's go and look there. Or let's go look at your competitors and see what great reviews people are saying there, or what terrible things. I love going and looking at bad reviews for my my and seeing what their competitors, not such biggest fans are saying on Google reviews, because I'm like, ooh, the technician was late. Okay, y'all, we need to make sure technicians are on time. people don't realize that is a part of marketing, because that's a part of the overall overarching experience that someone is having. It doesn't matter if they saw this beautiful ad and the copy was so great and they filled out the form if no one follows up with them but 5 days later. Y'all, they already called Joe Schmo down the road, your competitor, and booked a tune up with them, or called them to come and unclog the drain in their bathroom. Like, all of those different components are a part of your marketing. And another thing the kid at the lake isn't going to do is give you feedback on that. I remember when we started working with Robert too, we would call. Like, we would literally call their competitors, and I would be like, hey, you know, my husband, he's got a F-150, and, you know, we're looking at, he wants the Nitto tires, and he wants, you know, the 22 rims on, you know, and we need a Rhino bed liner. And I would get a quote, and but I wouldn't necessarily just care about the quote. I'm like, how is the guy on the other end of the line trying to sell this to me? And we would record it, and then we would send it to Robert, because we're like, yo, if I'm going to be driving traffic to your website or driving people into the store or whatever, like, we need to make sure that that experience is so great, because if people are not having a great experience once they get into the store, or once they end up on the website, or once they call, everything that I'm doing on social media or any of your other marketing outlets won't matter.
Right.
It will not matter. That is all still a part of the customer experience, and that is all still a part of the marketing. And so when you hire us to work with us, we're looking at all of those things too. Like, I care deeply, deeply about that. And it can't just be like, I only care about the way the social media post looks. No, it needs to be the whole all-encompassing customer experience.
Those dots across the experience all need to connect and tell one big consistent brand story.
Yes. And
clients or customers, however you want to say it, they don't, when there is a disconnect, like if at any point in this process the experience is bad and it doesn't live up to the rest of the pieces, they're not sitting back and really ruminating on that was weird. They're not, all they know is, man, that guy was a jerk, or you broke the chain of connection, and you obviously disrupted the experience. You potentially put a bad taste in the customer's mouth. You could have drove the customer away. Point is that those dots connecting and you being consistent all the way through the before, during, and after experience is critical. And that includes social media. It includes the website. It includes, like you said, the customer service on the phone. It's all those pieces. And I do think people forget that, you know, hey, we're really good at window tint. Oh, great. But how are you on the customer service side? How are you on the billing side? How are you on, because if that stuff sucks, being great at, you know, window tint doesn't matter as much.
No. And we talk about that connection even before someone becomes a customer. We are consistently educating our clients on this idea of the natural progression. And there's this group of strangers who are out there that should know about your brand. They're your target audience, right? Like, and our goal is to take them from being strangers and turn them into your friend. So whether that's literally liking your Facebook page or they just engage with your content, we want them to like you enough to become your friend. And then we have to build trust there, right? So that is getting them to become a customer and making sure that those dots of the experience are connecting with what we said or what we told them or the story that we gave them when we got them to be our friend. Well, okay, now they trust us enough that they're going to become a customer. And people think that the journey ends there too. And so I liked that you said everything after, because there is an after when someone becomes a customer. And that's them becoming an evangelist for your business. Yeah. That's them going and that's them leaving a review. That's them telling their neighbor, Sheila, down the road, oh my gosh, I went and got my windows tinted here. Or, oh my gosh, I went and got the best cupcake in the world here. Or, oh my gosh, I had this amazing experience with Bassett Services. And they were great. The plumber came out. He did what he said he was going to do. He was on time, phenomenal, got a great deal, whatever. You know, like that experience that you give them is what turns them into that evangelist. That's what makes them want to go and tell their family and friends about you, to recommend you. And then that cuts out really the whole stranger part of the natural progression. Because if someone who's an evangelist tells Sheila, hey, you should call Glass Tint, etc., for your window tinting, well, then now Sheila is immediately our friend. Sheila is no longer a stranger because she has buy-in because her friend had a great experience. And how often do we value the opinion of a complete stranger? When you're buying something on Amazon, you're going and looking at the reviews, or you're asking other people, or you're seeing if your favorite influencer shared something, right? Like that matters immensely in the digital age still today. That word of mouth, and that's all a part of the experience. And I would say the same is true when people are shopping agencies. So much of our business is referral. Like we've made so many friends, not because we've gone after strangers, but because we've created such a remarkable experience for our current customers that they want to go tell their other friends in the same industry, or their friends in different industries, or whoever, their neighbor down the road who's starting a business and needs a website.
Yep.
And that's been a real big testament to success for us as well.
I think a lot of people think the sales process ends when they get the yes. And it's like, that's only one
just
step
the beginning
in the process, because you got to deliver it now. You know, I don't want to throw all the buzzwords out there, but the authenticity, you have to live up to the promise now. And like you said, that's your cultivation tool for future. That's your cultivation tool for referrals. So it is important, that whole kind of customer journey, and even, them to understand the role they play in that is huge, because if we're doing it right, we should be picking people that we align with, that kind of are in our camp, so to speak. So they're being chosen in a way. So.
Yeah. I'm always like, when we're having those initial meetings, I'm like, I want them to be a good fit for us.
Correct.
Right? Like, and it has to be mutual. It can't just be, we need more clients, right? We'll sign anybody. Like, no, we have core beliefs. We have core strategies. We have our own opinions, right? And beliefs on how this has been done based on history and past success, right? Yeah. And so we kind of know when we're sitting down with somebody if they're going to be able to buy into this, or if they already believe this and this is also their philosophy, or if they are waiting to go viral or looking for a deal or whatever. We know that might not be the person for us, right? And so you have to tread lightly sometimes in those situations.
I totally agree. So Hannah, thank you for being on the podcast. I know we spent a lot of time on social media, which is great. I think we pulled at a lot of strings, and I really appreciate your insight, and it aligns, we're on the same page with a lot of this stuff. So I really appreciate the insight and the feedback and the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
If you'd like to learn more about CyberDogs, share your thoughts, or even ask a specific question about this episode or the brand Retro Mindset, contact me directly at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.